Star Wars fans. There's just 139 days until Christmas 2022. And we've got a little bit of a special live stream this evening for you. We're going to, you've seen a lot of times like preseason rankings for teams, the way too early preseason that start 2 days after the last season ended, is who's going to be ranked for the next season. Well, that's us tonight. We're going to be talking about the Acolyte, and I've got my friend Scotty Hawk's Holocrons. Thank you so much, Scotty, for inviting me to have this discussion. Just to make it clear, you hit me up last week and said, "Dude, I'm dying to have this conversation. We need to make it happen." And so I'm like, "Oh, let's do it." So
there's a lot of good stuff going on in the show, man.
There certainly is. There certainly is. And so I'm able to meet a little bit later today. I've got my mega
really
mug.
Appreciate you making time.
No problem. Kathy's got a doctor's appointment. I said in the chat, she just has a regular checkup. So many of you probably don't know, my wife has had cancer before, and so she has to go in every now and then, make sure all's good. All's good. So no worries. We're not troubled. There's no concerns. It's just one of those things you have to do once you've had cancer. You don't want it again. So anyhow, Scotty, let's drop into
Santa,
the discussion.
I gotta say, of all of the Star Wars channels, your chat is the thirstiest. I don't know who started it, but my goodness,
I know who started it.
Well, okay.
It's Meg. She started it. It all happened with a unfortunate wording. One morning on a watch party we were having for the Bad Batch, and Mount Tantus didn't come out as Mount Tantus, and from then on, it's been here we are.
Okay, I will make sure to try to not mispronounce Darth Tanis then.
Very important. Very, 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 very important. Because Meg will be right on that. And I see Jason from Making Star Wars is here. Another stir of the pot. So
he's another one I'm trying to get into and talk to High Republic rumors once more of those show rumors start coming out, because people are sleeping on this stuff. I really feel like High Republic's a whole other, but actually it's supposed to be kind of linking up now with the Acolyte.
I think it will link in here. Me too. And I mentioned a week ago or so that there were some tie-ins in some of the recent novels that go back to the High Republic as well. So most specifically the Padawan novel. There's mention of a couple of really major characters from the High Republic era. And
which Padawan book?
It's by Kirsten White, the one that got all that press about Obi-Wan's.
The most recent, you said. Yeah. Very recent.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, it goes back to pick up on a couple of High Republic characters that are prominent.
Okay, that's
very
cool.
prominent. And so I think that here we know with the Acolyte, for example, that it's going to be at the end of the High Republic era. The introduction we've had to the High Republic to this point has been not quite the end, but leading up to it. So from what I understand, the Acolyte would be give or take 100 years before the Phantom Menace.
I thought they were saying that it was 200, like right at the end of the High Republic.
Well, that'd be the novels we had were at 150 before.
Okay, so it's already been covering kind of closer up to the.
Yeah, so it'd be closer to 100, which puts it into a time frame.
It helps me.
It does. It really leads up to a neat place where we could be with the Acolyte, and we'll talk a bit about it specifically with the rumor of perhaps having Plagueis involved. Hey, Trev's made it. Good to see you, my friend. So you mentioned Tenebrous and the possibility of him having a role in it somewhere. but also there's a big likelihood that Plagueis could be involved as a younger individual who may have already been kind of named as one of the characters in the leaks to this point. So as we get to those, I do want to share a couple of things. Did you notice they updated the logo recently
For the Acolyte?
for the Acolyte?
No, what?
I I didn't know it either. It's quite
Like very
kind of.
Oh,
No.
okay.
It's kind of minor. So you can see the original logo kind of had that orange highlight to it.
Like a
the lightsaber just slashed through it.
Mhm.
The new one is like it's cooled off. You can see the damage done, but it's not that.
Oh, is it like sizzling? Is there smoke coming off of it?
The original one had like it was still hot, right?
Yeah.
But the new one, is there a little smoke coming off of there? Looks like it. Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, there's like some smoke back behind the letters and stuff. Yeah.
So I'm not already trying to dive into the book, but my mind goes to Cartosis and like the elements that can resist lightsabers, etc. That they were all farming. The Sith were farming it. Is it cutting through now? Is that a Cartosis blade that's cutting through that instead of a lightsaber? I'm just.
This is the time for speculation. So anything's possible.
It definitely looks like it was a lightsaber cut at first for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a lightsaber cut as well, like a red saber went through it, slashed through it. And at this point,
I think if it's 150 years, really, and I'm just like revisiting the Plagueis novel, and what of that novel is canon or not canon, I feel like they can basically pick and choose at this point. So we're just kind of pure speculation. But the book literally starts out like 67 ABY or before,
BBY.
67 years before that. And they also specifically state that Plagueis has been the Padawan of Tenebris at this point for the average lifespan of a human. So that's 150 damn near exact, if you ask me. The average lifespan is about 80 to 70 years of a person. So, I mean, man, Tenebris, I think, is more who I'm expecting in some of the first seasons, if they're going to go this route and save Plagueis for, like, big reveals towards the end. I hope it just keeps leading into the younger Palpatine storyline.
Well, let's look at a couple of the leaks, and we could start off. Bespin covers it really well, and the leaks have been primarily coming from a dude named Ahsokas, AE.
These two new
Ahsokas.
Twitter accounts on the scene here.
Exactly, and he's been he's backed up some of his rumors with evidence. And as Bespin pointed out in this article, that some of the leaks that he has for Ahsokas has for the Acolyte line up to some of the things that Bespin has seen and heard himself. So
we're using that as like a confirmation because it's been triple checked, peer studies, etc.
Yes, I would say
that dark web that the plebs like me are not privy to.
Maybe so, but part of it is look. There were some things that came out today, and let me go ahead and pull up Ahsoka's Twitter account here. And if we start chronologically, go backwards. The one of the ones that came out today, 6 hours ago, Acolyte's filming says they're filming scenes in the volume first, as they're not 100% on locations just yet. Location filming begins late October and November, and volume filming should begin within a few weeks and a month. One candidate for location is Northern Scotland, and Darth Elvis lives in Scotland. In fact, he went out to site and got some pictures from Andor when they were filming out there. So we'll have to hit up our buddy Darth Elvis and send him on a road trip again into Northern Scotland to get some pictures once they start location shooting. But so they're shooting in the volume first, and so I would say that at this point we're really, really early in production. And if the information that Ahsoka has had at this point, I wouldn't lean into it too hard, because as they go through filming and in the production process, there may be scenes that get cut, they may get reordered, they may get kind of, we like to say, rejiggered.
It's pulled from concepts too, so it's stuff they could choose to leave on the cutting room floor, etc.
Exactly. So you gotta kind of be careful for some of that stuff. So yeah, that's it. And Trevor's saying Plagueis was 115 when he died, which was just before Phantom Menace. Yeah, well, that's in the Plagueis novel, right?
Okay.
And
People
and like you
about like wasn't Plagueis 200 years? I think it is pretty close to 200 because, like I was saying, the book specifically says 67 ABY is where they're talking about, and this is the exact point where Plagueis kills Tenebris or takes him out 67 years before the Battle of Yavin, and then it's stated in that same paragraph that Plagueis has been his apprentice for the average lifespan of a human. So add 80 more to that, we're well into 140, 150 years.
I just have to laugh because of the spell, the autocorrect.
Yes.
I want to see Tenebris trying to manipulate the MIDI crayons. You want to get you want to master the crayons in kindergarten. So that'd be really early.
I actually love that they called it M count in The Mandalorian because it's such a scientific approach to a non-scientific anomaly that they don't know what it is. They just know it's like, it'd be like if we found some random thing in the human bloodstream and just named it a letter.
Right. Well, I think Lucas's original kind of inspiration for midichlorians were mitochondria.
Yeah, exactly. And so much so to the point that Plagueis literally treats them as like the powerhouse of the cell, because they are like, he literally calls them like interlopers. Like the midichlorians are interfering with the Sith's ability to directly connect to the Force. So there's some kind of manipulation that he believes is happening on part of the midichlorians. And we kind of believe that too, because the Jedi say the same thing, that like the Force is always in motion. The Force actually has a separate agenda, really, and it's the balance. I just thought it was very interesting how the Sith are just like, dude, get these midichlorians out of my way. I need direct access to this power source. What's going on here? So
yeah, I've got to go back to the Plagueis novel. If people who follow my people who follow my channel know that I constantly harsh on the Plagueis novel. It's partly just me trolling. But partially because I read it, and it wasn't nearly as much about Plagueis as I expected it to be. It was a lot more about Palpatine, Sheev, and how he got into power than it was about Plagueis and what he was doing. So, not that it wasn't about Plagueis, it's just that it was. I troll, right? So that's part of it.
But you're making very good points, though, because literally after the scene between Plagueis and Tenebris, it goes on a whole chapter long, or like multiple chapter descriptions about the moon or the Mun system where all these rich people live. And it's like they name drop that this is the same system where the idea of presenting Valorum to the Senate as a candidate first originated. So if you're going to tell me that the book's not canon, like I think personally they'd be foolish to not at least pull heavily from it. And I mean, I would not be opposed to them saying that it is canon because, like you stated, there's not a lot of Plagueis stuff in there, and they can still kind of work with that.
Right. I think Plagueis' story is largely still unmined. That there's a lot of story that could be told, and you could certainly introduce him at a younger age in the Acolyte than he is in the novel, and you've got years of content to cover, right? Of his story to tell, and I can I was going to say I just am finishing the third reread of Ahsoka because this guy Ahsokas spilled a lot of content about the upcoming Tales of the Jedi, and there's some things that conflicted with what I remembered on the Ahsoka novel. So I went back and reread it again. I'm just finishing up tonight, and then I'm going to jump back into Plagueis for another read of it to kind of remind myself of that content. But there is a great deal of his story to tell, and if we go in,
E.K. Johnston's tweet, I really appreciated him expressing
yes,
because I feel a lot of us are shared with that. It's like imagination, bro. Like, what happened to the speculation? What happened to the waiting, the wait and see, dude? So much of the hate or the stuff people don't like, when I really look at it and analyze it, it's like these are open-ended stories still. They're plot points that are not a closed chapter. So it's like people are in outrage about a lot of things that I think are still playing out in the overall. Like, I think there is an overall arc to all this stuff that we just don't know about. They don't put it out there like Marvel does. So it's like everyone's being very impatient. That's just me.
I agree. I agree. Me too. I mean, I'm guilty. I'm not just pointing fingers at other folks saying you guys need to be patient. Me too. I need to kind of check myself from time to time. I've been talking about.
Hesitant to talk about Plagueis, but it's like, man, if you're gonna keep going back through the lineage, you've name dropped in multiple movies. Now they've also in the Rise of Skywalker put Tenebris and Tanis out there. And not to I could tangent forever, but Tanis is the guy that created the weapon on Malachor. If Malachor is going to be in Ahsoka, and we're going to learn more history about that, and the other tweet that we're going to talk about brings up Malachor and all these apprentices going there, dude. Like, for me, if the book's not canon, they're definitely making parts of it canon.
Well, I think Trev put it loose canon. Somebody else said like the novels tend to be kind of loose canon. Ducky Momo was saying. I see it as stories told by different storytellers, and that concept. If you're to tell a story and I'm to tell the same story, we might highlight different things or tell it slightly differently, but still the same story. That's how I have to look at it now.
Star Wars includes these names if they're not eventually going to pull them in somehow, some way.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Bespin's article. Again, he heavily references Ahsokas, and we want to credit Ahsokas for the source. But I thought that Bespin did a nice job of putting things sort of in a contained order to read. Rather, Ahsokas has been giving out leaks as he goes, and you kind of have to put some of them together. But Bespin did a really good job here of kind of lining it up. Yeah, Ducky. Look, once upon a time ago, boys and girls, there was Star Wars, and it was a telling of history through the Wills, the Journal of the Wills. But long since, the creator changed directions and added other sources in. And so no longer is this a retelling of the Journal of the Wills. This is a modified... It's been modified
Amended.
Since. Amended. That's correct. So many of us remember the day when it was supposed to be one source, but that is no longer the case. So anyhow, let's get back in here. It says we'll get past the introduction of who Ahsoka is in the Tales of the Jedi. So they've leaked some information about the upcoming live-action series Star Wars: The Acolyte, and he has a reference tell about here, but no link. So if Bespin, you're lurking, or if our good friend Jason Ward wants to bang on the walls and tell Bespin, hey, you forgot to put the link in, dude. But anyhow, he says I could personally back some of the information as legitimate, lines up with things. There's additional information through this series. So Leaker starts by saying character named Melody That's just a code name, Melody. We'll see another name used a lot in here that is, again, just code name. At this point, it bears reminding, they're doing some filming in the volume, but like set location doesn't start until October. So we're still a couple months out, right? So codename Melody. Melody is a central Jedi character who appears in the first 2 episodes. Melody's a Padawan learner who makes a connection which leads to friendship with the lead, Aura. So they meet each other, and that is also perhaps a codename. Aura, the codename Aura, that character is played by our lead, Amanda Stenberg. Now, this is kind of an exciting bit of news as well, because Amanda has given an interview where she says the role was essentially written for her.
Yes, dude, and I got immediate Gina Carano vibes. Like, she said she walked in the room, though, hear me out, because she said she walked in the room and the concept art for Cara Dune was her. So I'm very curious, like, when Amanda showed up, was the concept art of her? And it sounds like that's what she's saying. So it's like, it's just another role that this person is going to dive in. She literally moved. I don't want to pick your finger, but she moved to the UK.
Yeah, that's makes sense. She's literally moving, right?
Like,
she is.
She's already on the tongue through everything. Like, if a person was ever all in, like, this is all in right here, man. Life-changing decisions she's making.
Right. Exactly. And she's super excited about it. And it bears mentioning again, Leslie Headland is a huge Star Wars sweaty. She loves Star Wars. She's played the board game. She's played the video games. She follows many podcasts and YouTube channels. She has read a number of the books. She is deep into the lore and the universe of Star Wars. George Lucas's Star Wars, as well as the EU and other things. So I think that we should trust that Leslie knows the story. And
she probably more than any person they've hired knows this particular story. And she's asking all the right questions, man. She's like, why did George Lucas choose to reveal the Sith the way he did? And then Maul shows up and we're all just like, okay. Like, literally no one has questions as to how these guys were able to hide or why they were even hiding for so long.
Right. Let me make a call out here and just say, hello, Julie. Thank you so much for watching part of the show today. We're excited that you stopped in, and I can't wait to get to visit you later this year. So thank you for that. So just wanted to call out for our friend Matt and his daughter who just stopped in to say hi.
Retro Gaming. If you haven't already checked them out, man. Retro.
Yep. Yeah. Let me get back to this story. So Leslie said that she was approached by the folks from Lucasfilm and said that that she was. It says where is it down here? Her quotes. There we go. Speaking to the face, the Acolyte actor Amanda revealed Lucasfilm had them. That's her pronouns. Had them specifically in mind for the show's lead and built the show around her before she had even signed on. Lucasfilm team came to me with this project, which was fully conceptualized with me in mind, and I was astounded. How cool is that? You get approached by Lucasfilm and says, hey, Scotty, we've got this show we're making, and when we were writing it, there was surely just one person that we thought of that would really fill it. And we want to know, would you be interested in being part of this new Disney Plus Star Wars show?
Excuse me. How did you get this number? Who are you? Did that boy Steve put you up to this? That's exactly my reaction. Like, dude, I would collapse to the floor.
It's super exciting. So this is where she says, I get to read, watch, and breathe Star Wars. It's my job to get lost in it. I'm so lucky. My plans were interrupted by a very different life path, but one that I think is going to be a huge blessing. And then she goes on to say that she's going to move to the UK later this year as they are filming the series there.
You know
So
what, I laugh because I picture her like, imagine she was just like this little book nerd, just sitting in her room reading, studying up on like different types of acting tropes and things like this. Now she's gonna be a full-blown black belt kung fu wushu master and living in the UK just like overnight.
yes, it is.
She's doing like 2 or 3 a day workouts now, and she's never had to do that in her life. Probably. Like,
well, and that's what else she said is that she's taking karate, judo lessons. Yep. She's working out. She's really training for it.
I love it.
I think as a fan, when you hear Leslie Headland and when you hear like Amanda talking in this kind of way, it has to be reassuring to know that you have people who care so much about the show. It's one thing when you see, Mark Hamill or somebody like that who's been involved since the very beginning. But when you get a brand new, when you get somebody brand new into the franchise who's young, right? Amanda's not our age.
Right.
And is this super excited for it? It's got to be exciting. And I am out of the pan and into the fire. I would say that probably that's the thing that she's going to be introduced, like all of the new actors have been, to this fandom in a way that at least she seems to be stepping off on the right foot with the fandom. She's not being antagonistic. She's not, kind of trying to drive a wedge in, anything like that.
And I think you can learn from like actors' previous mistakes, if you will, with Lucasfilm and call it, walk on eggshells or whatever. But it's like the hype, like the fans want to feel the hype. So if they're trying to really drive this show forward, I think they're doing a good job at avoiding the typical questions that they're being asked. And it's so much so to the point where like, and I almost got canceled for like trying to champion Leslie so much. People in these articles, Variety specifically, like we know why they're asking these questions, these specific questions. And Leslie pushes back and she's like, why are you asking me this stuff? I'm a creative. You need to be asking the people above me who hired me. And why are they hiring these specific people? Like, I'm just here to make a story. And I think she's the best qualified for it based on like literally name 5 people that have played the board game RPG. I couldn't.
Right. I mean, I played it briefly back in the late 80s, early 90s. My brother got a bunch of board games. We played a Marvel one. We played a Star Trek one and Star Wars. These were all like, got them second hand, third hand. So it was, we played like one evening of it. So I can't even like claim that I've played it.
Yeah.
I was tangentially associated with it for about an hour. That's about it. But I mean, you're right. I name people who have played that board game. And I love this X-Wing leaning into his reputation, right? Just saying. Expectation, red laser-eyed X-Wing thumbnail. Look, X-Wing's a good guy. He's got a great heart. He's got a great passion for Star Wars. But there are things that in this fandom seem to divide us. And I would say one of the things that have people concerned is Leslie's social activism. And she is involved in the LGBTQ plus community. She's an activist in that community. And they're worried about activist messaging working its way into Star Wars.
Yeah. And I feel like it's cherry-picked quotes from articles that I've read fully myself. And really all I've ever seen her do is gush about the prequels and how she was a preteen trying to discover herself in the world. She mentioned that she was exploring her sexuality in the article. And now everybody's like, oh man, they're going to explore sexuality in the show now. No. And it's like, bro, she's literally just talking about her personal experiences with Star Wars.
Right.
That's it.
And Meg knows, I know Meg's giving me a bit of a hard time, but also it bears noting. Right. I'm not saying being LGBTQ plus makes you an activist. I'm saying being an activist makes you an activist, right? Like going out and
because
and giving speeches and going out and on protests and different things like that makes you an activist. Like being that
lack of
doesn't.
respect, man. It's a lack of respect, and that's why people are called activists. Like they're not doing it because they want to be activists. They're just doing it because no one's listening.
Yeah. Well, if you feel like you're not being heard, then you can
now you get
either
labeled as the activist because it's like banging your head against the wall.
Yeah, I get that. And I understand.
She's trying to avoid those topics. I don't feel like she's bringing the activism, if that's what you want to call it, into her approach to Star Wars. She's trying to focus on surrounding herself with people who love it.
Yes.
But she also has said things like she wants people who don't know the content. And I think it's funny how we accept people like Tony Gilroy, who openly admits he doesn't give a damn about the Star Wars stuff. And he did Rogue One, and Rogue One's one of people's most favorite movies ever. So now you have the exact same approach from someone you just don't align with, and that's a problem now. That shit, pardon my language, but that really, really bothers me. And those opinions say more about the people with those opinions than they do about the content creators themselves. And
look, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I mentioned it with that book, Padawan. If people think that Padawan makes Obi-Wan bisexual, then they are the ones that are making him bisexual. The book doesn't do that.
Yeah, you lean a little bit towards a little something you don't really fully understand either. So
yeah,
I don't know. I try not to harp on it, but it does affect me. I have many relatives whose sexualities are open, and I have children who I want to see my opinions and respect me as a person. I don't have to be a channel that says how inclusive I am because I just act as such.
Yeah. I try to, I've been very open about my political and religious beliefs. Mm-hmm. And I try to be as understanding as I can with people of different political and religious beliefs. And as somebody who grew up as a musician and went to college and stuff like that, I have had very close friends who are different sexual orientations, identification than I am. But I still consider them really, really close. Yeah.
I've been cockled, if I'm being honest. I've been on some channels that don't align with the way I think, and they have also openly told me that I'm only there because of those reasons. So that's why I haven't spoke a lot on Star Wars personally.
Look, I've made it clear that how much I personally love and adore Meg. I have friends that I was in the U.S. Army with who are openly gay, who, when my mom passed, I reached out because they had gone through it, and the way they expressed their love for their mom was so special to me that I needed somebody to help me through that grief. And it doesn't matter to me in any way, shape, or form what sexuality you identify as, or your sexual orientation. Makes no difference to me at all. If your heart is good and you have a real good moral compass, then I absolutely love many people who don't see eye to eye with me politically or religiously. Doesn't matter. It's a strong moral compass that I identify with, and it's one of the reasons that Rey is such a strong character for me in Star Wars. So, yeah. Yeah. Quentin says, "You're up next, Scotty."
I don't know what that means. I'm scared.
No, Quentin does the Quentin Time podcast.
I've been on multiple times. We going again?
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. I think that's what he's saying.
Like, I'm very passionate about this stuff, and a lot of this stuff doesn't even affect me directly. I just know I have family that would look at me very differently. Yeah. So we all connect to this stuff differently.
You're right. Let's get back to the Acolyte
Yeah,
and
bring the movie back.
and the actual content, right? I don't mind bringing up social or political topics as they relate, but I
feel
really
like we
love
hit on
to.
it. I mean, that's really
Yeah, I think so too. And if the Acolyte brings in some social messaging, I'm not going to be shocked as long as it fits the story well and doesn't come across as heavy-handed or preachy.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. Make it natural.
Yeah.
Make it just part of the story, and it's a nothing, right? It's a nothing that these people are in a marriage together, in a relationship together. The more you make it normal, the more normal it becomes. And if you're not pushing it and preaching it, you don't get that backlash as strong, right? The harder you push, the harder
focus
people
on the
push back.
content.
Yeah. Focus on the content. So here we go. Says so. Anyhow, Melody is a Padawan. She meets Aura, who is a Manla, and when her sister Miri is taken by the Jedi, right? So Miri is Melody's sister,
Okay, so
and
do you
go
think
ahead.
you think that Jedi is older, comes to village, notices force sensitive children, takes one, kind of like what we've seen
Yes,
in other trailers and things like that. So this Jedi might
yes,
particularly just be out there seeking force sensitives.
yes. And this is one of the things that
I appreciate that, Mick. It means a lot.
yeah, I look, I love her so much. She's a very, very special human being.
Been a rough couple of
And,
months for me on Star Wars. I pulled back a lot.
Adam, in a franchise where brother and sister made out, let's be real, nothing's out of bounds, right? Just make it normal.
Yeah.
Brother and sister,
Always
making
been
out.
there, man.
Oh,
You don't have to make that normal, but
I mean,
where's
you
the
didn't hear
West
people
Virginia
protest.
of the, Star Wars. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to target anybody.
Alabama, whatever it is. Right.
Oh,
So
God.
it's just normal. Right? So the Jedi come in and they split up a family. Essentially, was what I'm
Scott.
hearing here. But and it's something that some people are kind of pushing back against, where the Jedi are constantly portrayed in the light, where they're breaking up families, they're stealing children, that kind of thing. I think the true heart of the Jedi Order is that they go in with the family's permission, take the children to raise them, train them, bring them up in a safe environment where these powers that they have, or this access to the Force that they have, can be channeled to help others. So it's not so much like they come in the middle of the night and take one kid and leave the other. And I think that's, Trev says you have to show why the Jedi are taking children. And I think,
and like the approach has to vary. Like, imagine they go into a town where a slave like Anakin is there, and his mom's like, "Yes, please, please, please save my son." And then they go to like some other place, maybe Coruscant, and it's like this super wealthy family. Like, are they convincing these families to give up their children? Like, how far are they really pushing these like overall greater importance in the universe? And if someone chooses to like, no thanks, like, are they forcing it? I don't know.
Yeah, we've got to see it. We've got to see how it plays out.
It would be cool to see, I think.
I think that we'll see. Part of it's left out of this story, and you kind of have to fill in the holes. And that's why you need to be a little bit careful about leaning into this too much. Adam, as a parent, some days you'd gladly give your kids to some random Jedi.
Especially if
Adam.
they're able to use manipulation like mind tricks on you, then definitely.
Yeah. Jason points out the Jedi agree to help the village of Aura, where Aura lives. If that's the city, the village is. Wait a minute. Aura is Amanda Stenberg's character.
Mm-hmm.
We have Melody and Miri, who are the siblings, and so he said they agree to play ball and give her.
It's like, not to put words in his mouth, but that sounds like almost ultimatums. Like, sure, we're gonna rid you of your problem, but like, I don't know if that's kind of what he's getting at, but.
Well, and that's what we need to really see in the context of the story itself. And this is, I think, Scotty, something that you've mentioned before when I've listened to you on other streams. Guys, we have to see how it's executed. To me. I do. Look, I'm a fan. When you read how a story is presented or how the leaks are given, and Jason being one of the big players in this space, when you read it, you have to see how it's executed. How did they tell the story? How do we see it play out on screen? And to read this, it seems very stark, right? Mm-hmm. To read it this way. But Quentin, that's my wife getting home from her doctor's appointment. So that's what's going on. But you read it, it sounds very stark. But let's see how it plays out. Let's see how emotionally involved it is. And let's see if it comes off as really cold-hearted and divisive, like we're splitting up a family, or if it's more compassionate.
Right.
Just to read this, it sounds bad. Mm-hmm. It sounds very bad. It says, however, there seems to be a time jump by episode 2. Now Melody is a Jedi Knight. And when we read before, she was a Padawan, right?
Okay.
But now she's a Jedi Knight who's been captured by the Sith Lord of the series, codenamed Paul. So I'm pretty sure the Sith Lord is not Paul, not Darth Paul, or anything. But
I tweeted earlier, like, Paul and Plagueis are just too close, man. Call him Kevin. Call him Samuel. Don't call him Paul.
Just call him Kevin. I love that.
These fans are, right? Like,
yes, I do.
You know who I am, right? I should say.
So I think Paul forces Aura to kill her friend. So this is Amandla has to kill Melody. All right, she met her back here when her sister Miri was taken by the Jedi. So
this tracks too well with the trailer we got for KOTOR, because it's like
exactly
showing up and revealing everything to this other person and why the Jedi are terrible, actually. So
yeah, right. And Jason's pointing out Paul's manipulated the situation, right? Yep. The Jedi fail because he's kind of manipulating it. Very, very Sheev Palpatine-ish, and also Plagueis kind of manipulating and pulling strings behind the scenes that appear to play out differently because of the influence they had, right? They kind of set it up that way. Trev, I love the way Darth Paul sounds. There's a great movie back in. It's not great. It's terrible. It's a terrible movie. It's absolutely quite unwatchable. Called Paul. That's the name of the alien.
Terrible. I actually enjoyed it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's an alien movie. I mean, but it's Seth Rogen humor, so it's kind of like.
Well, there you go. I'm not a Seth Rogen fan.
Right. He was the voice, right?
He was the voice. Yeah. X-Wing. I love that movie. I'm not a fan of the movie. Look, there's different tastes, right? But in any obsession, Paul is amazing. Look, I picked a fight. I've picked a fight. Now people are defending Paul. It's okay. In another tidbit, it's claimed we'll see a scene of Aura. This is Amandla, right? And Miri taking a boat ride down a river, and the duo, Ori and Miri, see alien creature in the distance toward the end who starts to move toward them. They hastily turn the boat around to their village. The juiciest part of this is that Darth Plagueis is involved with the series. But not liberty to say how or why. However, I have a theory, and I thought that the Bespin Bulletin does a fantastic job of kind of. You have to remember, when you get these people who are involved with some of the leaks and some of the information they get, they have to connect dots. Jason's done a great job of explaining, how that happens, and how he has to piece it together. And Bespin is kind of laying it out this way as well. So based on the sets of leaks that he's been exposed to, if they are to believe, then here's the rough plot. First episode focuses on the planet Shinshiro, where Aura and Miri live with their grandfather Theo, and the village is attacked by primitive aliens. Now, Josh Lucas, Den of Nerds, pointed out this is very similar to the episode of Visions, where they're coming in and raiding the village all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very similar. And follows some of the Japanese stories that Star Wars is partially inspired by, right? So this follows very, very well to that. And then Aura and Miri spot one of them on a boat ride and hightail it back to their village, but eventually the aliens attack. The Jedi fend off the attackers, where Aura meets Melody. In exchange for their service, this is what Jason was talking about. In exchange for their service, the Jedi take a Force-sensitive child who happens to be Miri. Aura is also Force-sensitive, as too old to be trained. Aura's heartbroken her sister is taken away, but there's nothing she can do. In either the same episode or following, the village is attacked by aliens again. This time the Jedi are too late, and Theo is killed. That's their dad, right? Back here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her grandfather, Theo, grandfather.
So
Aura is angry, demands to see her sister. The Jedi say, nope, can't do it. The incompetence of the Jedi, and this is where Jason's pointing out, this is Darth Paul. We'll call him Darth Paul for now. The incompetence of the Jedi to protect the village and not allowing Aura to see her sisters, what motivates her to seek out the Acolytes. The Acolytes are all vying to become the apprentice of the Sith Lord. So the Sith Lord Paul, Darth Paul. This is where we go back to, some people have kind of characterized it similar to the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
They're killing each other off. The survivor gets to become...
Which hilariously enough, Amandla was Rue from the Hunger Games. She was the young girl that, and like props to her as like what, a 10-year-old in a death scene.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of the best scenes in the entire trilogy. So people who aren't hyped to see how she's developed as an actress, like crazy.
Yeah.
Actually,
Good point of bringing that up.
I only remember her in that. I'm not sure what else she's been in, but I'm definitely open to exploring other things she's been in now, for sure.
Yeah. And you know, I still haven't caught Russian Dolls. Which I hear is
and what
quite
people
good.
rave about that is the writing. That's why I'm hyped, because writing is a struggle in Star Wars, as we know, episode to episode. So hopefully as a showrunner, she can really take control of a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Do we know anything about like direction? I feel like they go back and forth. So it's like multiple directors, or is it going to be a Chloe Zhao kind of situation?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Chloe's, we do have, I just said her name.
Chloe Zhao's situation where it's like just one person kind of
right
directing. So it has a similar feel throughout, or plays like a movie, I guess, more.
Well, we have Leslie Headland is the showrunner. So
Right.
it would be similar to like The Mandalorian, where you've got Jon Favreau as the showrunner, right? He was writing the episodes, but we had multiple directors coming in, through the season. And that can be woven very well if you've got the right people involved. So, no, not Deborah Chow, Chloe Zhao. There's different person. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Geez. Yeah, I was thinking Marvel. Chat corrected me. Thank you.
Kay says Amandla sounds like a true nerd too. Yes, so is Leslie, right? They both really are. Leslie wrote Russian Dolls. Yes, Trev. That's what I'm saying. I haven't seen it yet. Chloe did Eternals.
Yes,
That's what Clinton's pointing
back on
out.
track. Yeah, that was my fault.
Yeah. So the Acolytes are becoming. This is Hunger Games essentially. They pick one off until one's left standing. Darth Paul, captures Melody and forces Aura to kill her friend. This is rough. It's, again, very Hunger Games-ish, right? At the end of Hunger Games, you've got the two standing on top of the vessel, and one is supposed to kill the other. But then they say, well, we're both going to commit suicide.
No, I'm a little lost here, though. Melody and Aura become friends, or was Melody the Jedi that took her sister?
Melody. Let's go back.
Aura meets Melody.
Aura and Miri spot one of the boat ride. Now tie it back. Jedi fend off. Aura meets Melody, and Jedi take Miri. So Aura and Melody are left behind. Aura's force sensitive. Melody was, I think they just met in this scenario here, right? Melody is Miri's sister. So so Aura's mad. That we get back down here. Says.
So then Paul makes Aura kill Melody, who's probably not sensitive at all.
It could be right, and perhaps a test to allow her into the Acolyte program. Aura struggles taking out her fellow Acolytes, so this is again the main actress, right? But she makes a friend, Pen. Now, Pen is Jason's trying to get us straight.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
But Pen is the guy that could be a Mun, who could be Plagueis.
Heard that.
So not Paul, but Pen. Pen is the possibility. We don't know. Pen is the CGI male alien. The duo work together to take down their competitors. Paul, right? Darth Paul. Is that Tenebrous? I don't know. It says it's a gray-haired dude. So I don't know that fits with Tenebrous, but whoever Paul is.
Jason, the only thing I'm confused on is who Melody is. If she's supposed to be one of the other acolytes that Paul makes her kill, or if it's just a random person from the village. I guess I didn't catch that detail.
Yeah. Jason, I can send you a link to join to straighten us out here in a minute. As soon as we get through this, if you're available.
They live for like 100 years too.
Yeah, so I don't know that it would be Tenebrous, right? If it's a human, silver-haired human, that doesn't fit with Tenebrous. But
Melody is Padawan. Okay.
Yeah. It says, unlike the other characters, so speculate perhaps Aura takes down the Sith Lord. Darth Paul. Okay. Darth Paul's out. Let me. I've got Jason
Darth Paul's
here.
out. Darth Pen's in.
Right.
That whole master. Easy.
Yeah. I just keep getting confused on Melody and Miri.
That's the only character.
Right? Those two are the ones I keep getting flipped in my head. But Melody and Miri are the confusing bits. But Pen could be the one who takes up the mantle of one of the Sith Lords by the end of the season. That could be Plagueis. That's where
established as a Sith Lord. It sounds like
perhaps Pen is Darth Plagueis if Plagueis is in the series. The character is a CGI alien and a Sith Lord. Paul is simply a white human male, right? So it doesn't fit with Tenebrous, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
The series set 100 years ahead of the Phantom Menace, so making it close enough.
So if they're tying into novel at all, this would be at the end of Tenebrous's reign and potentially Plagueis's overcoming of him.
Correct. So, actually, I'd love a Sith Bith with a blonde wig in disguise. This is Paul, right? So much like you have Darth. Here, Jason's coming in to get our get all the I's dotted and T's crossed, straightened out here. But much like you've got, Darth Plagueis is also just a banker. Darth Tenebrous is a blonde-haired human male in disguise, and then when he's the hood's up with Palpatine, he's Darth Sidious. He's Darth Paul. Jason, straighten us out.
Okay, so in the first episode, which is probably a few years before, by the sounds of everything, you have a Padawan who comes in with her master, and that's one of the code names with an M. Let's just simplify it. And she is a Jedi, and she's going to be a Jedi. She's a Padawan, and they form a friendship because they're kind of the same. But Aura is too old, so she's not going to be taken, and they want to take her sister. The Jedi come in, they're like, we will help your village, but you have to be in the system, so to speak. So that ends up being, we're going to take your little sister, but we're going to protect you guys. She's going to have a good life. She's going to get trained. She's going to have this really, she's basically getting a scholarship, but you won't ever get to see her again. And she doesn't like it. And she's old enough to have attachment, which is kind of the point. She has an attachment to her little sister. She doesn't want her to go. So, so they make this like deal. Meanwhile, Sith Lord Paul, he's probably the guy who was watching him from the boat. When the sisters when Aura and her sister are on a boat ride and go, what's that? And then they like leave. So then meanwhile, what he does is he's an arms dealer. He takes all of the he takes not all of them, but he takes some of his weapons, gives them to the villagers that have been attacking her village. And they're kind of like, just like mindless monster kind of things, and arms them and says, go attack now. Don't wait until the harvest or whatever happens to be. However, it's going to work. So they attack early, wipe everybody out. When she gets back, she's gone. She comes back and everybody's wiped out. And then the Jedi show up, and it's her friend who was a Padawan in the first episode and second episode is now a Jedi, a full-fledged Jedi. And she's like, everybody's dead. You guys let us down. She's like, I want my sister back. They say no. And then the details after this part are a little bit like vague, but basically Sith Lord Paul subdues the ex-Padawan, now Jedi, and says, you could come with me. We'll get your sister back. I'm going to give you unlimited power. I'm going to train you something better than the Jedi. Kill her. And there's no question. She kills her. And then that's how the trajectory of the main character is started, and how she views the Jedi in the whole situation. Like, she sees them as people who made a deal to take her sister, didn't live up to their end of the bargain, and so on. And it's not and fans always go like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But no, it's not, it's not a valid perspective. It's her perspective, but it's her limited view of the situation of what happened. She's overlooking the fact that Paul set up the situation to go that way. If the Sith didn't exist, it wouldn't have gone that way. The Jedi would have probably shown up in time. Her sister would become a Jedi, all this kind of stuff. But she basically wants her sister back, and it's not going to happen. And then right. I love the story, because now we have a Sith, we have a future Sith and a future Jedi that are sisters. That's just a great dramatic opportunity.
So, yeah, Jason, did you shave after your show? Are you getting ready for a hot date tonight? Is that it?
No, this is from this morning. I'm like the opposite of Andor. Like, my hair goes in. I go balder as the day goes on.
I'm sorry. I interrupted Hawk. Go ahead.
No, I am fascinated by the whole thing. And I'm curious if you've heard anything about like true Sith or like the lineage, because the Plagueis novel also mentions that throughout their travels or whatever, they did encounter other dark side. Like, there has to be other dark side force sensitives out there, or people that lean that way. Is there any hints, like, other than Plagueis, that this is in the Bane lineage or connected somehow to the deeper Sith, I guess?
Yeah, as far as that kind of stuff goes, Ahsoka hasn't said anything or had anything that made me think as much. I think the Plagueis novel was hinting at the Witches of Dathomir, and where that story was going to go in Clone Wars, which was about that time, when they were developing all of that stuff. And but the big thing is that he goes on to talk about how we are going to see Moribund. Was it Moribund or something like that?
Oh, Malachor.
Malachor,
right?
Which is also heavily rumored for the Ahsoka show. I believe I saw the Dave Filoni. They're like cards that he illustrated, right? With Ahsoka going into the temple. I think you guys have shared these images, but that's official Dave Filoni art. And she's on Malachor. She's walking through like waist deep water. The Morai is there with her. So I do think that's cool. Malachor is going to be in the show. It has to connect, I think, to at least the mention of Plagueis.
There are some descriptions that that do kind of lean that way. So here's the leaks from Ahsoka's, the tweets that Ahsoka's talked about that Jason just cleared up as well, where they come in and get back to the village. The Jedi arrive too late. Paul forces Aura to kill Miri, whoever.
Yeah, it did. Don't worry about that.
Whatever.
I always laugh because I'm
Names
always annoyed with the code name. I'm like, why do they do this stupid stuff? It doesn't confuse me.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it? And then here I'm like, oh, I guess it works. So
Right.
it works on
Right.
Santa. But yeah,
So that's where that happens. She has a sort of force power up again, leading into the dark side. Right. Dark side is a shortcut. Right. It's a pathway to powers.
So they're going to show
Right.
Aura accepting the dark side.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, powering up by using it, shortcutting. And then she goes out into the bog to kill the aliens, but doesn't go near the village. When she gets back to the village, the Jedi finally arrive. They've been subdued by Paul. Aura then kills them, taking the lightsaber. And then we have these places.
and
Feather.
That's like one thing is that like they don't make lightsabers. They take them off of Jedi who they killed. Is something that it sounds like is a motif in the series, by the way.
Okay, yeah, and that's somewhat consistent. That's somewhat consistent.
And if they want to stick to the lore, yeah, they're ultimately going to be tested and see if they can change these crystals.
Right, they'll have to bleed them. Yeah.
Yeah,
And bend them to their will. Right. Feather is a one world or place, a huge bug-like monster similar to Geonosis and Geonosians. Right.
Yeah.
They live in a huge.
they're like giant beetles is what they look like. They're kind of like giant beetle monsters.
Excellent. Not like bug as much as the Geonosians. Right.
No, they're like imagine Geonosians if they were giant and looked like sort of more beetle like. I mean, that's the best I can do.
Gotcha. No.
sounds like the Mustafarians, if I'm being honest.
But they're
Where's
they're
the-
giant, and there's like they live in these like giant holes, and at the top of it's a castle, and it sounds like that's Paul's place. It has
sounds
to be
awesome.
Paul's place. They got the best hamburgers you've ever had, Hawk. I'm not even
Here it
kidding.
is.
Paul's had In-N-Out. In-N-Out's okay compared to Paul's.
Here's a Malachor-like Sith pyramid temple with a red glow. That's where Scotty's been kind of.
What if it's just a shot of a holocron, but we can't tell because it's just a red peak.
It's a giant holocron. It's even more
There's a
info in it
holocron
'cause
just
it's
way off in the distance. We can't tell.
a forced perspective? Yeah.
Peter Jackson's a holocron.
And then there's
They
a
all look
snow
big.
planet with a
They
snow
still won't
with a
say the word
snowstorm.
holocron though. They'll call it a wayfinder or something. Like,
holocron.
okay, that's an honest question. Do you think they're going to say holocron in the series?
Don't they in the Clone Wars episode where Cad Bane is looking for the kids?
Maul and Ezra too talking about holocrons, but
I
like
think they
live
might-
action.
Yeah, live action.
Was that just a sequel thing because they didn't know what the hell they were? Yeah, I won't.
They wanted
I
well,
won't
they
bring it up.
were quote
Okay.
wayfinders, and they didn't
Yeah.
really go with like any
You
knowledge
just
or
had to
making
shape 'em the
anything.
same way.
They just inherited everything, even down to how you get there. So yeah.
True.
Wayfinders, which are different than way seekers. They're different. They're Quentin say, or will they say Hawks holocron?
Right?
No chance.
No.
There was
In
a
which
clone,
case-
there was a clone trooper Hawk.
Mhm.
He was like the pilot.
There you go.
An oddball. What happened to Oddball? Justice for Oddball. Sorry. Remember that guy though? He was in part 3.
But this is funny. Paul's just a code name, likely not the real name in the show. If that's hilarious. It's like me picking on Bespin for saying.
Well, I have to say, if they did do it, it would be fun because everybody would get really mad, right? But then he'd be like, well, what's up with Luke? Why is his name Luke? Why isn't he like Lucas or something crazy? Because that's Luke. Luke's just, I mean, I know a little kid named Luke. Just throwing it out there.
Like Luke is more Star Wars than Luke.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So, and then when it comes to like the Plagueis thing, for a while we were like thinking that if the Sith friend, the acolyte friend that she makes might be Plagueis in the making, but I guess something has come to light that takes that off the table. But Ahsoka's source is claiming that Plagueis is a part of the narrative in an important way. So,
Well, I think Bespin's interpretation there, going again with the other P guy, not Paul, is going to be Plagueis.
well, no, that's what I thought. That was what he brought that to my show, and that's what I like literally said. He confirmed today that's not the case.
Oh, it's not.
Ahsoka says no. No, Ahsoka said after. He says that character is not. Plagueis is in it. Just they don't know how. They're not saying how or whatever. So yeah, it made the most sense that because the friend that she makes is like the opposite of her, and they basically have their Sith archetype, if you will, is that he's a Sidious. He's like into magic and politics and strategy, and she's just a powerful like attack dog kind of thing at that point. And so they both are doing bad in the contest. They're both getting their butts kicked by everybody, and then they team up together and start taking everybody down, which is true Sith way. I mean, as everybody knows. And so they end up they end up becoming like a duo throughout it. And so the whole time we're like, well, I don't remember what his code name is, but Plankton or something. But then when they get their Sith names, that's when he might become Plagueis. Was
Right.
What I thought that made the most sense.
Right.
Ahsoka is saying no.
No, I saw he said it's not Paul for sure, but I thought the other guy.
Okay. Well, that's
You're
what we
saying
were saying the whole time. Yeah. When I was talking, that's my. Well, let me talk to him and double confirm that, because we never thought Paul was Plagueis ever. So that's a weird one.
Yeah, Bespin's saying
this
he's
vibe though about the whole true Sith versus not true Sith, and that these acolytes are dark side Force users, but they're really just trying to learn themselves about the Force. And maybe Plagueis shows up and is like, this is actually what's up. I am an actual Sith. You're imitators. And because none of these people in theory are alive or in our known galaxies going beyond the Darth Maul parts of the timeline. So they could introduce Plagueis and then just use him as to show the true strength of his dark side abilities in that time frame.
I mean, it's when you look at the timeline, it has to go that way, and it has to go that way somehow. Like whether it's the friend or whatever, because like we were getting the vibe that what's going to happen is Paul thinks he's going to get a Sith Lord, a Sith apprentice, but then Aura and her friend are going to team up on him immediately and take it all from him. And so if one of them isn't Plagueis, then Plagueis has to be coming. Like unless he's a spring chicken when we get to him, when he meets Sidious, which doesn't really track. We're not that far out. We're like around 120-ish years before Palpatine starts doing what he does before he becomes Chancellor. So that's, which, I mean, if they only last 4 or 5 years until they get replaced all the time, I guess you could do hundreds of them, or 100 of them before we get there almost. But I don't think it's going to go that way. That just sounds complicated.
Yeah. So Bespin was saying he thinks that it's Penn is Plagueis.
Penn
who arrives later
and that's always, we were always on that page though. That isn't like, I love Bespin, but that's what we were saying since day one, is that it's not because we knew that the main guy wasn't an alien. He wasn't CGI. They did the casting call for him. So I don't even know why the conversation went there. It's stupid. It shouldn't even have gone there in the first place. We've known it was a white male in contention for the part that was going to have his face shown for Paul. Yeah, the whole time. So anybody who ever asked if it was Plagueis wasn't following along adequately. Right. Paul was never. So that's why I'm like, why are we even going there? Yeah.
Well, and that's what I saw. Ahsoka's debunking. Paul is not Plagueis, but this Penn
I did a video. Yeah, and I did a
one.
video about when he said that Plagueis, and I'm like, it's probably Penn if it's anybody. So I don't know why we're having the conversation about that. It's weird.
Well, there you go. Hey,
Yeah.
real quick, we did have bots show up again, so I changed the chat to subscriber mode. You don't have to be a member, but if you want to continue to interact in chat and you're not a subscriber to the channel, all you have to do is click on that little subscribe button down there, and there's no minimum. You can subscribe and be admitted right back into the chat, but we had to nix the bots. So that's what's
if you're in the
going on there.
mood, there's a link right there for you for your convenience.
There is a link that if you'd like to become a channel member, that would be awesome too.
Oh, I meant for the porn. Yeah, that too. That too.
No.
Oh, okay.
Jason. So yeah, Ahsoka has had some leads here as well as Bespin. I believe Bespin has some more stories that he's holding until he confirms. So
On this one or the other one?
on all of it, but specifically
Yeah,
tonight we're talking about.
I know he
Acolyte.
has some pretty cool stuff on Skeleton Crew.
Oh, excellent.
So hopefully
Excellent.
Feels soon for that.
it's happening. It's already filming. So
Well, and that's what I said. Acolyte. If Acolyte's doing some filming in the volume, and they don't start on set or location until late October, how much of this could change between now and then?
well, when it comes to this whole Acolyte thing itself, I'm like, that's what I was saying from the very start. Was like, whenever I got stuff early, I always sat on it and then would wait to get like a double to triple confirmation of it that it was actually being filmed, and then I'd be like, yep, and here's the intention. Because if they do it, then usually when you hear it that early, you know what the intention is, and then you could like combine it with the execution. But I'm like, for instance, this is a dumb one, but let's just pretend like they were kind of on the fence about making there being a friendship with the Padawan girl in the first episode. Maybe they were thinking about making it a rivalry instead. Well, if they were on the fence about it, they may just go rivalry now and revise that part, for instance, just because it leaked out. I don't know if they would do that. I don't know how expensive it is to do that, but that's always been a fear of mine, is that like, so, but hey, I'm not going to knock getting information early. It's fun.
Oh yeah. Hey, Trev, thanks for being here. It's great to see you for a while. Thanks for stopping in. I just sent out a poll. We have a Patreon server. If you were one of our Patreon supporters, you can ask questions that we'll address it in a live stream. This one came in before tonight's live stream, so I put it into a poll. And the poll is simply: would you watch a Dawn of the Jedi TV show based on the first book? Richard Todd asked that question, and so your potential answers are: yeah, sure, I'd watch it. No, or what? Right? Like Jedi? What? What's a
I would
Jedi?
definitely watch it, but I'm not going to tell you who I want to direct it
It's Ryan Johnson. That's why.
because they already said that might be what he does. I'm trolling. I'm trolling.
I never ever got very deep into like what that Ryan Johnson project was. I don't think most people really know.
Star Wars.
And but the whole Dawn of the Jedi thing, I don't think that was true.
I
got
got
reasons to believe
you
it.
mentioned he would be excited to do, and everybody ran with that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well,
Why wouldn't he? Of course he would be. Like, it sounds fun, but I don't
they
think that's what he was
mentioned-
doing.
They mentioned Ryan Johnson exploring part of the universe that's never been explored before. A whole different
Taika
part of the
too.
Star Wars universe.
And Taika,
Yes.
and and Skeleton Crew, and they're gonna tell you that BS every single time, unless it has to do with the Skywalker kid having a new Force baby. Like, that's what they're gonna say. It's gonna be like, if it was Space Cops, you know what the premise would be when they don't want to tell you what it is? A whole part of the galaxy you've never seen explored before. Space Cops.
Well,
Right?
my argument has been, after especially seeing Knives Out, that it should be Nichis space in the unknown region and be the Sherlock Holmesian kind of story. I think he could do a great job of it, and you're not tied to any of the Skywalker saga, as X-Wing puts.
Santa just became the fan who says that the last thing he saw is the thing that guy's gonna do.
Yes.
But we always
I can't
know that's
help it.
not. We always know that isn't true. If you did a mystery last time, it won't be a mystery for that one. It'll be
Look,
like something completely different. It'll be like well, Cassian would run that, but like it'd be like a spy thriller or something. And then he's already done time travel, and then he's already done the fantasy film, if you will, with The Last Jedi. So whatever the last genre that he hasn't done, that's what it'll be. I bet.
Yeah. I'm as guilty as any other fan in coming up with my
Me
own
too. I'm just picking on you.
nonsense. That's okay.
That's okay. I do my coffee. I'm excited.
It's all
Hawk's
fun.
here.
It's all fun.
You know, I'm excited.
Look, I'm excited too. I love
Hyped for this
Scotty.
show.
I think you're fantastic. I'm really happy to get you here this evening to be able to talk about it. I do need to kind of wrap things up, but Scotty, you reached out to me to say, hey, I'm dying to talk about this Acolyte thing, and I want to make sure that we've touched on the things that you really wanted to make sure we covered.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think that the sequels did a good job name dropping. So we at least have a name Tenebris. We at least have a name Tanis. I think if any of them, those are the two most important, because Tanis is the guy that made the super weapon on Malachor, which we've seen the aftermath of, and they've explored that storyline multiple times. Tenebris, I don't think is as important because he's 800 years old, etc., etc. Nobody really knows. We all just care about Plagueis. And I hope that, and this is kind of like my final big theory on it, I hope that the title, The Acolyte, tracks like The Mandalorian. We don't really know who they're referring to. Is it the whole group? Is it going to be Mandalore at the end of the show? Mm-hmm. So I just think like if the Acolyte stays ambiguous throughout everything, eventually I would be ecstatic if it ends up being Palpatine himself. The Acolyte becomes Palpatine. And, you know, it's just, he's the new guy. Maybe we get a Darth Maul cutscene born somewhere that he takes him early. But yeah, I think the Acolyte eventually will become Palpatine. Hopefully.
Oh, interesting theory. There you go. I tend to think that it's going to be the Acolyte is really a story about the female. What's the actress's name? I just forgot her name.
Amanda Stenberg?
Amandla. I think it's Amandla's character.
I would say
Amandla.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she is the Acolyte in whatever role she has, and perhaps at the end of the season we get a Plagueis reveal, and then by the time that works itself out, we could head into other offshoot series. But I don't know. It's all speculation at this point, and it's really, really early. That's why I mentioned at the very top of the show. This is sort of like, you know, the season predictions for sports teams that come out the weekend after the final for the previous season, right? So you get the Super Bowl and they say, okay, who's going to win next year's Super Bowl? Like the following weekend. You
Based
don't
on
know.
how good the show is going to be on books and movies and things that came out a decade ago. I respect
Exactly. So yes, Scotty, you are awesome. Thank you for being here. Really.
When I'm passionate about some of this stuff, man, I tell you, I just go in. Just can't help it.
Well, it's always fun when you get fans together and who are just super nerding out on the content, just to nerd out on the content. That's fun. It's a lot of fun. So I appreciate it. And yes, Obsession, another good, another good friend. Of course, Jason. Thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it. I know you had to end your show with getting the kids off. Did they get their ice cream? That's what I need to know.
Nah, they will next time.
Okay.
Next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm looking at the poll results. We only have 16. Only about half the people who are watching have submitted a response.
I'm gonna play this in your sleep.
88% are saying yes, they would watch it. 6% have no idea what we're talking about. So fair.
You know,
fair.
And one more final plug for the High Republic. Some of the newer books are starting to talk about Jeddah.
Yes.
That's cool.
So yeah, so they're getting there. They're getting there.
They are. And I mentioned that Padawan book, or not Padawan. Padawan. The one about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Name dropping High Republic characters. Yes.
Absolutely. Orla specifically, who was away.
What's her special force power? Orla. I wonder what Orla does.
Well, you have to read the books, Jason. I know
that Greedo was greedy. So what is Orla?
She's a wayfinder, right? Or a wayseeker.
Oh,
she's
a
wayseeker.
She's
not a wayfinder. Wayfinder is what you put into your computer to navigate. She's a wayseeker. So she's neither Jedi nor Sith, right? She follows the light, but she's not a Jedi. So
Quidditch stuff.
It would be the equivalent to Ahsoka once she leaves the Jedi Order.
Okay.
Yes.
So she sells crystals and stuff at the swap meet. That's what you're talking about.
Kyber crystals may or may not have belonged to former Sith lords. Or not.
Right. She also has white sabers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Orla is mentioned, as well as Orla's friend that she went through Jedi training with, the two of them, which are a big part of the initial run of the High Republic. They're both in that book, so it's kind of they're dead. They've been dead for a long time, right? It happened way too long ago. But there's a reference to them that ends up being a clue to something that ends up being part of the story. Yes, Jedi Knight.
Yeah, there was like an excerpt, and her master is Han Jobi. Han Jobi Wan Kenobi was her master. So it's all coming together. Like, we're really learning everything about all the Jedis and how they connect. It's cool.
I told you, Scotty. It started with Meg, and an unfortunate.
I am Star Wars Meg.
I am Darth.
Off my hood.
Unfortunate misspeak on Mount Tantus during a live stream, and then Jason just helps stir the
Bad
pot.
Batch season 2 is gonna be fun to watch with you.
It is. So, hey, thank you both for being here, Scotty. Anytime we can.
Dude.
Look, anytime we can work it out. People said we need to do this more frequently with you. I would love to. I just know we've got this time difference, and it
Dude,
makes it.
I'm gonna throw out a little request too. If we could somehow link up me, you, and Levi Bond, bro, because I got some things that I could talk with that guy about. I look up to Levi a lot based on some pretty spicy situations he was involved in, and I give him a lot of props for being.
Well, we have a thing on. we have a thing on Thursdays now, where during my normal time, where he is a regular guest, especially while he's in between terms at school, right? So he's able to join now, but it may be a limited time. So, but that works out. It's kind of difficult for you because it's noon Eastern, 9 a.m.
Yeah. I'm
so
watching you guys.
Yeah, if you ever have the ability to jump in, please direct message me. We'll get you on anytime. And Jason's always looking for bright people to bring into his show. I know you'd have a open invite to Jason
out
as well.
Open invite, dude.
All right,
come on
I
over.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
I won't be
really
as
good
shy
dude
anymore. I never know.
Yeah.
I never know. Everyone, you got schedules to keep and things you want to talk about.
Yeah. And we've been taking Mondays off because of the holidays and weekends and stuff people take during summer. So appreciate it all. You guys, I'm going to have to cut it out. We're going to go to eat dinner.
What are you having? Can I have some?
I don't know. I'll find out when I get upstairs. It might be.
Get the pizza.
Well, you spent too much time in the basement talking about Star Wars, so now figure it out for yourself, fat boy. I don't know. We'll find out.
Grabbing beefaroni. Canned beefaroni for Santa.
We'll find out. All right. Well, with that being the case, we'll see you guys later. And until next time, my friends, may the force be with you. And Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.
Hot dang! Talking through the news. news from a galaxy far away. Toys and book reviews, positivity all the way. Come and join the fun, subscribe and like away. Movie news and show reviews, it's like Christmas every day. Oh, Star Wars Santa, Star Wars Santa, the Star Wars Santa show. Oh, what fun it is to chat on the Star Wars Santa show. Oh, Star Wars Santa, Star Wars Santa, the Star Wars Santa show. Oh, what fun it is to chat on the Star Wars Santa show. Ho, 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 ho. Hot dang, ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a treat tonight on the Star Wars Santa